Hey everyone, it's Pastor Dave from St. John in Woodbury, Minnesota. Thanks for taking out today's 5 minutes of hope. I pray that your week is off to a good start. We are now getting close to the midpoint of January, so time is just kind of flying along. So hopefully your week is off to a good start. But as I say each time, my biggest prayer for you is that you are filled with peace, with joy, and with hope, because you know exactly what Jesus has done for you. So today, as we always do, we have our joke of the day as well, some devotional thoughts. In light of everything that's been going on in our country over the last week, the joke will be connected to the government, and then our devotional thoughts also connected to, again, what's going on in the country and where our focus is ultimately to be, even during these times. So, first, our joke of the day. It's about a politician who went out and visited a remote village, and he asked the leaders of that village, "Is there anything that we in the government can do for you?" And the leader said, "Well, we have this health clinic, but we don't have any doctors." And so right away, the politician grabbed his cell phone and he dialed the number and very forcefully said, "Next week, we need a doctor out here in this village." And then he hung up. And then he turned to the leaders of the village and said, "Is there anything else the government can do for you?" And the leader said, "Well, it'd also be nice to have cell phone coverage out here." Government joke. Hopefully you like that one. So nice and simple. So hopefully that at least made you smile a little bit. So that's our joke of the day for today. So like I said, our devotional thoughts for today are also connected to what's been going on in our country. Obviously, last Wednesday was a disturbing day. You know, a lot of stuff happened in our nation's capital and even other places around the country that were just a little bit disheartening. Seeing people act so violently. Whether it was again in this scenario or even if you look back in the summer, the unrest, seeing the violence take place. It's always very challenging to see things happen that way, to see people use force and violence and anger and hatred to do things that we just wish they wouldn't do. Can really get your mind thinking about things. And as we reflect upon what happened then, as we continue to reflect upon what's going on now, with again the continued divisions within our country and the toll it takes on us, the big question is what do we do about that? And a couple of days ago, again, as I like to often share, I read a devotion, a couple of devotional thoughts from Henry Nouwen, and in this one, he talks about where our allegiance is, our ultimate allegiance is. And I just want to read to you the last part of this devotion. He writes these words. He says, "As long as we belong to this world, we will remain subject to its competitive ways and expect to be rewarded for all the good we do. But when we belong to God, who loves us without conditions, we can live lives as He does." And so, in this devotion, Noun is talking more about kind of a self-awareness, being able to have peace because we belong to God, not being forced to think that we need to earn love from God or from others. But a lot of these same principles apply to how we find true peace and true comfort, how we free ourselves from ongoing anxiety and worry from the state of the world right now, from the state of our country. And it's by turning our focus to God. And again, he writes this with the last words of this devotion. He says, the great conversion called for, the great conversion called for by Jesus is to move from belonging to the world to belonging to God. And the reality is as long as we think that our hope, our peace, our comfort, our fulfillment will be found in this world, regardless of who our leaders are, regardless of what's happening, we'll always be disappointed. Just the reality is, even if this division politically in our country were to cease, there would be other problems that we'd be dealing with. Even when the pandemic is over, there'll be other problems that we'll be dealing with. And so again, as long as we try to say, if we can find our hope and our peace and our joy, our fullness in this world, if that's where our mindset is, if we're attached to this world in that way, we're always going to be upset. We're always going to be disappointed. We're always going to be facing hardships and depression and anxiety and strife because this world is broken. It's filled with sin and it can't do what we want it ultimately to do. This doesn't mean we don't try to make the world better. But again, we'll never fully and completely succeed. And that's why we're called to have our focus always upon Christ, to find all those things in Him and in Him alone. And so if you're really, stressed out by what's going on in your country, again, that's more than understandable. I just simply encourage you to move your eyes, move your focus from what's going on in our world, and move it to what Christ has done for you. And there you'll find ultimate peace and hope and joy. And with that in mind, then we can get to work, to do good, to bless people in this world, in this broken world, this world that's filled with sin. So God bless you during these times. Keep your eyes focused upon Christ, knowing He loves you, He died for you, and in Him we have true and everlasting life.